Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time it may be. And welcome to the Richard Watkins podcast. So, we are coming to you today just to give you a few reflections on some really cool stuff that I just experienced. And listen, I know many of you might be sick and tired of just hearing from me. I know you heard from me last week, but I promise next week we've got an incredible guest that you will not want to miss. Tune in. We release episodes every single Friday. And I have to take not one step further before I give a huge shout out to the Science Policy Action Network, the best in lobbying, the best in consulting, lying and sitting at the intersection, science and society. We are here to support you no matter what questions you have. I know the world is a confusing place. There's a lot of challenges. There are a lot of opportunities. The Science Policy Action Network is here to help you navigate those challenges and seize those opportunities. Please check out the Science Policy Action Network or SPAN Inc. at span-inc.org. That's www.span-inc.org. So without further ado, I just want to really get into this huge topic that I think is really, really important. I get, called to give speeches and presentations, and it's always a huge, huge honor. Um, and yesterday I had an opportunity to give a presentation. Now I knew this presentation was coming up, and I had spent a lot of time preparing for it because obviously I want to do a great job. We're working with a partner, an amazing partner, and we always, as an organization, do our very best at every single opportunity that we have. So staying up, making sure the presentation and the contents of the presentation were absolutely excellent, the best that this partner had ever seen. And that's when we work with a partner, we always want that partner to walk away feeling that this is the best that exists. Because quite frankly, we are, right? As CEO of the Science Policy Action Network, or SPAN Inc., I really hang my hat on the fact that when we engage a partner, they're going to say that, oh, this is the best that we've ever dealt with, right? And if you're out there and you're looking to work with us, I promise you'll walk away saying the same thing. We work our tails off to make sure that that's the case. Well, yesterday I had an opportunity to go to an amazing camp. And this camp was run by this amazing foundation called the Nate McMillan Foundation. Now, the Nate McMillan Foundation works with young boys and making sure that they provide programming and resources and different opportunities. It's absolutely amazing. And these kids are absolutely incredible. The staff is absolutely incredible. And we're just so very proud to have the Nate McMillan Foundation as a partner. So I'm trying to find the location. It's a camp, and so it's in the woods. And so I'm driving around. I'm really excited because anytime we get an opportunity to do good work, I get really, really excited. And I'm giving a presentation on something that I really care for. So they're like, "Hey, can you come in and give a presentation and workshop on internet security or online safety, internet privacy, and just social media?" And I was like, yeah, sure. And they were like, well, we got to make sure that you are engaging because, I mean, we're dealing with, basically 6-year-olds all the way to like 17-year-old boys who've been running around having a good time all day. And so either they're going to be very tired or they're going to just be off the wall, right? And listen, 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 listen. Most of you who are listening to this have a very, very hard time keeping folks' attention, right? But that's something that we kind of specialize in, and we love communicating, we love working, and we bring a lot of energy. And it doesn't matter what the audience is. I mean, I've had opportunities to present to executives at major corporations. I've had opportunity to present to public officials at very high levels. I've had opportunity to present churches, prison transition programs, and yes, kids. So when you talk about science communication, there is nobody better at doing it than us because we are able to communicate to such a wide variety of folks, right? And so it's just really, really great. And so I walk into the room and it is just a cacophony of like snack eating, people having a good time, chasing each other around. The energy level is through the roof. And I'm supposed to come in and give like an hour and a half presentation on internet privacy, online safety, and social media. And everybody's like, all right, you gotta keep these kids' attention, man. And they just got out the pool, and it's they are at a very high level. But I'll tell you, I had such a great time. I had such a great time. We had slides, just a standard PowerPoint, right? But, for anybody out there who wants to get better at the presentation, just put yourself in the shoes of like your audience, right? You got to just know your audience's perspective. And it was just really, really, really great, right? And I think what I walked away thinking is that we have a tremendous opportunity to present our youth with current information, complicated topics, topics that maybe we're not very comfortable with. I mean, case in point, right? Privacy. When we talk about privacy, we are talking about the security or the measures that you can take on to protect your information online. Fact of the matter is, most adults, right, don't really have a firm grasp of this. And so, as parents and as educators, they then have no real motivation to communicate these ideas to students, right? And that's very, very dangerous, right? To put it bluntly, because so much of our information is online and there is a huge industry, right? Both black market and legal, that's all about collecting your information and then selling it, right? And you don't want that to happen. And so I just was thinking, like, well, the information that I shared to these students, I should share here with you all. And obviously, if you want to hear more of this, we can go into more depth. Obviously, there are people who do this for a living. Please check them out, but take your security very, very safely. So we first started off by talking about social media, right? Social media, if you just are not really paying attention, or you might be paying attention, but you're not thinking about it correctly. Social media is communication. For most Americans, it is the primary form of communication. So K through 12, they're still teaching kids how to write in cursive, reading and writing, and so on and so forth, which is great. But if you're not really focusing on the role that social media plays, you're really missing the vast majority of how people are receiving information and how people are communicating their own ideas. The vast majority of it. People wake up, they check their social media. Throughout the day, they check their social media. They can be sitting next to a loved one, right? And for the whole evening, they're not talking to each other, but they're on social media. You can be at a family Sunday dinner and the mom and the dad, they're talking, or the parents, they're talking, but then the teenage kids, they're not engaging the table because they're on social media. And it's really hard for people to really understand this because as people, just honestly, we're kind of stuck in our ways. And the values that we operate off of are rooted in traditions and cultures that are like hundreds of years old. But we live in a society that is rooted in technology that is constantly evolving. I mean, this is the reason why the Science Policy Action Network exists, because we know innovation advances so much quicker than the society for which that innovation interacts with. And so we always know that there is going to be gaps that we need to fill. And so that's why we really, started off to begin with, right? But we really see that many people have a hard time coming to grips with this. You are very quick to tell a kid, hey, dude, put your phone down. You're not engaging with the real world. No, you are wrong. Social media is the primary form of communication in this world, whether or not you have come to appreciate that reality or not. You watch the news, and news anchors on credible news outlets are getting their information from social media platforms, primarily X, right? You are watching, say, for instance, you want to check out sports, right? There are a lot of sports fans out there. Most news comes from social media. Maybe it's your favorite athlete who is talking about their experience at training camp or the preseason, or what their experience is like at the recently passed Summer Olympics. You're engaging with them through social media because you can't really be there, and you can't even really get that insight, honestly, from anywhere else but social media. And it gives you a glimpse into the lives of so many people because almost everyone walks around with a camera and a computer in their pocket. That's a phone, right? And so it really gives you unprecedented access to each other and people. And it's the greatest development to communication, perhaps since, I don't know, word of mouth, written language. I mean, the first form of two-way communication over maybe a distance is a telegraph. The first form of like audio communication is the telephone. And I would say social media blows all of that out of the water, all of it out of the water. And it gets better, it's getting better and more powerful all the time. And it's interacting with us and allowing us to interact with each other in ways I've never had before. And quite frankly, you know, our education system isn't keeping up with it. Our entire society is having a hard time coming to grips with it because as people, we are really just evolved to kind of have small kind of interactions with like our neighbors, our family, our friends. But social media allows us to receive information from a wide array of people, and it also allows us to communicate information to a wide array of people. So one of the things I told these students is I know a lot of people, whether they're your coaches, your teachers, your parents, so on and so forth, are really trying to work hard to communicate to you exactly what you should be doing. That's a tough task because I told them that I'm an old man, and many of them were like, "No, you're not old." I was like, "Let me show you how old I am," and I showed them a telephone from when I was a kid. Their jaws dropped to the ground. You don't realize how old you are until you see how far technology has advanced. And I hope somebody's really listening to this because we have a really easy, it's really easy for us to judge children or to tell them what they should or shouldn't do based on what we did or didn't do or based on how our parents raised us. But quite frankly, if you are a millennial, right, or older than a millennial, but you never had to really grow up in the age of social media. My daughter, right, she has her entire life since birth documented on social media and then broadcast to the entire world. And she's not alone. Almost every child around this age is having that. I know some parents try to hold back from that, but many parents, share pictures and birthdays, first day of school, right? And we don't really stop and be like, well, what's that experience like to grow into a person where everyone around you sees that? Like, what is it like to be a kid and you're just having a good time And then you go to your grandparents' house and your granddad says, "Oh, I see you eating spaghetti the other day." And the kid is like, how did you know? How do you know I ate spaghetti? You weren't, how do you know? And then to come to find out that that experience that they had with spaghetti was recorded, photographed, and then shared and distributed. And people who weren't even involved with that now have feelings or opinion or were able to witness that. Now, it's not really a big deal, but we never really stopped to ask what that experience is even like. And so we are now presented with a very difficult task with trying to raise a child, try to educate children on how to navigate a world that we ourselves don't really have any experience with at all, right? We have an experience with it as an adult, but we don't have any experience with it as as a child. And so we have a very difficult task. And I think we're not having conversations and workshops like the Nate McMillan Foundation is having enough. And I don't know what it is. I mean, I think I alluded to it earlier, right? It's changing so much. We don't know what to really kind of keep up with. And so we just did what we've done in the past, but we're living in a different time right now, right? Living in a different time. And you might have grown up in a time of a rotary phone, right? We really, really don't know. I remember I heard a story about a kid and he saw a floppy disk on, I guess, their professor's desk, right? And they're like, "Oh, you 3D printed the save icon." They had no connection with a floppy disk outside of that is the button that you click to save your document. That is there. And they're like, "Oh, you 3D printed it." So they had no relationship with what a floppy disk even was. And technology is developing even faster. And I've said this before. The impact that innovation will have on our lives over the course of the next 10 years will eclipse the impact that technology has had on our lives for the past 1,000 years. And that's just the fact of the matter. That's just the reality. So we started having conversations about social media, and the kids are just on top of it. I'm like, "Hey, what is social media?" They're saying this, they're saying that. And I'm like, "Yeah, social media is huge. It's like a huge breakthrough. It's transformed society. You're allowed to do this, that, and the other, so on and so forth." And it connects people from around the world. And we had conversations about algorithms, how they learn and establish patterns based on your usage, and they begin to curate your experiences based off of your usage. So you have this optimal experience with the application. We really talked about that, and the kids really grasped it, and so on and so forth. And it was funny because the adults in the room were like leaning forward too. So you really knew that you were having a really, really great conversation. And then we started talking about video games, right? And a lot of people have this very narrow view of what social media is, for example, right? And I was like, well, with the advent of online gaming, online games are a form of social media. And the kids are like, "What? You mean Roblox or Fortnite?" Yes, absolutely. And these technologies are incredible, right? So for example, it's not Roblox, not Fortnite. I've got this uh, online app on my phone, it's a gaming app on my phone where you like fight zombies, but you're able to play with people from around the world, right? But everybody is able to, communicate via chat. But people are speaking different languages, right? And so the app just translates everything for you. So even though you're playing with, people in France, right? The French is automatically converted into English, right? It's just amazing. So no matter where you're playing, they're like translating and stuff. And that is beyond anything that anybody could have ever imagined being possible, right? It's just an incredible, incredible experience. And I'm just really trying to hammer home for many of you who just have no clue just the world that's going on around you, and you have a real opportunity to really take advantage of it, but only if you care, right? Anyway, so the conversation goes on. And when you talk about video games, a lot of folks kind of roll their eyes, don't think it's a real big deal. But I was like, there is no bigger entertainment industry than video games, right? Then video games, then gaming, right? I told them, and this is a fact, right? If you combined the NFL, NBA, the NHL, MLB, the music industry, and the movie industry, and combined them, the gaming industry would still be worth more. The gaming industry is worth more than all of those things combined. It's wild, absolutely wild. It, and if you don't understand that or really appreciate it, you're really missing it, right? That's why we did that episode like on Nvidia, because you're just like, yo, the real players are playing in areas that many folks are just for some reason unaware of. You don't really get to be the largest, probably most powerful entertainment industry with a lot without a lot of customers and a lot of consumers. And so for so many people, right, and maybe even people in positions of power and positions of authority, for so many to not understand that means that you know they're missing something larger, right? Again, this is why this was such an amazing opportunity to have these conversations. But we also went in and talked about online bullying and cyberbullying, and also one of the things that's really important in regards to online bullying or cyberbullying is to not be a bully yourself, right? We oftentimes talk about bullying through the lens of the victim and really trying to establish ways that people can protect themselves from being victimized from bullying, how to create support to protect people from online bullying. And those resources and that information is absolutely critical. It's also critical to warn people from committing bullying. There are a lot of bullies who don't even know that they're bullying, right? And so that's also a real big opportunity that I was able to impress in this room of 60 people, right? It was just really amazing. And this was just the kids were 60, right? There were at least 15 or 20, adults. And so you've got like roughly like 80 people. And so you just a really, really good opportunity to talk about items and issues that they perhaps hadn't really, really heard of before, right? We also talked about putting information right on Facebook, and we had really an opportunity to really kind of talk about, and not just Facebook. Okay, I just said social media. I said Facebook because Facebook is right. I don't care what your favorite is. Facebook is the largest. It has the most users out of any social media platform on earth, with users worldwide. But a lot of bad actors can take advantage of the information that you put online. And so I just wanted to take a little bit of time to really communicate to these young scholars that they might need to be conscious about what they're putting online and so on and so forth. I really want to encourage them to really share and utilize social media and technologies, but also at the same time to just think about it, for just take a moment to think before you click, right? That's a really big thing. And the next thing we talked about privacy, how to protect your information, right? And I just want to give them just a few nuggets, right, of how to protect, right, themselves and their loved ones. And one of the things I really wanted to impress upon them is to go home and tell their parents or their grandparents or their caregivers about this, right? And I think there's a lot of different things you can do, but I think three, pretty basic things to do to really just protect your information online. Number one, passwords, right? Create complicated passwords. I'm sorry. And you might think, if you're listening to this, of course, but I'm just going to tell you, most people have terrible passwords, right? You do a little bit of digging, a report comes up that was around like 2020, and it says several million, accounts were hacked, right? Using the password 123456, which just so happens to be the most popular password in the world. 123456. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think also up there was the password QWERTY, right? Which I just had to look down at my keyboard because it's just the sequence of numbers at the top of your keyboard. try, right? You might worry, like I might forget, but there are services that enable you to keep up with your password, like password lockers. Look those up because, again, there is a huge industry of criminals and bad actors that count on you being stupid with your passwords, right? So don't use simple passwords. Don't use your birthday. Don't use anything simple. Make them complicated. Make them hard, right? The harder, the better, right? So really work really hard. So the first one is strong passwords. The second one, VPN, virtual private networks, right? They really protect you, especially when you're utilizing networks that aren't your own. If you're using public networks, are secure. You're at an airport. You're at somewhere else. You're just jumping online, right? These VPNs are pretty easy, right? If you watch, kind of any quality educational content on YouTube, quite often there's a VPN service advertised. So if you haven't seen a VPN service advertised, you're probably watching the wrong stuff on YouTube, right? Uh, but check out some of these services. I'm not sponsored by any of them, so I'm not going to plug any one of them particularly. Just get out and check them out. They really protect you, right? They mask, they encrypt, and make sure the information that you're sending over that network is protected, right? If somebody intercepts it, they won't be able to interpret it. It's encrypted. They don't have an encryption key or de-encryption key. Basically, encryption just means it's just scrambled up, and they won't be able to interpret what that information is, if it's received or who the sender was. And so VPNs are absolutely fantastic. And next one is, and most people use this all the time. A lot of services don't give you a choice, but that's two-step authentication or two-factor authentication, and that's basically two ways that service provider is able to check and make sure you are who you are. So you might have a password, right? Okay, fine. All right, but now you're going to have to make sure that you also have a phone and that you can receive a code that you then have to put in again. So that's that two steps of determining you are who you are. And so strong passwords, two-step authentication, and VPNs are just really, really important. And so we dump all of this information. Listen, there's going to be people here that think this information is boring. Shame on you. Because this classroom full of kids, right, loved it. They were gobbling it up. They were raising their hands. They were giving their opinions. They were, you always provide the audience an opportunity to engage. You just don't, not like this, right? You don't just lecture them or preach at them. They're just, they're giving you feedback. Afterwards, we played this really, really cool game. And they were able to compete against each other on how much information that they retained from that presentation. When the presentation first started, we said it was going to be a test. Their eyes rolled. But when they realized that the test was like a competition where it was one team versus another team, and they were able to compete against each other, it was just so much fun. It was so much fun. I say all of this to say that we just don't give people enough credit. We don't give people enough credit for how just genuinely curious they are, right? We don't give people enough credit for being able to, comprehend complex concepts, right? We don't give them a chance. And I think that's one of the things that makes, Span so very special is that we give you a chance, right? We give you the information that has been withheld for you for one reason or another, maybe because the person deciding whether or not to withhold that information thinks that you're capable of comprehending it, but we want to bring that information to you. And oftentimes we want to bring it directly from the lips of, professionals and authorities in that field. And again, this is exactly why we started this podcast to begin with, right? Listen, if you check it out, you got to follow, you got to share it, you got to like it, you got to turn on the alerts, all that social media stuff. You got to do all of it, right? Because this information is absolutely, critical, absolutely critical. But I was just absolutely just blown away by how excited these students were to talk about VPNs, virtual private networks, right? Or two-step authentications, and just like stuff that I guess you would think they wouldn't find interesting. But I always feel that it's not the subject matter, right? I think it's the people who are communicating the subject matter, right? I've had a philosophy for a long time when talking about this, right? Often it's not the message. Often it's not the message, it's the messenger. And so, you got to work with great people, right? Which is why, again, we're so proud to have had the opportunity to partner with the Nate McMillan Foundation. Fantastic people, the best people you can ever find. And of course, Science Policy Action Network, right? We are the best because we work with the best, and have the best information because we get that information from authorities on policy and different subjects. And so I just had to just take that time out to just communicate that to many of you who would do better if you knew better, right? So really quickly, VPN, two-step authentication, and strong passwords. Get that password game up for real. There's no excuse, no reason. Also just know what social media is. Obviously take that gaming industry seriously, right? So if your kid wants to engage in a video game and you turn up your nose, you're like, well, they're only engaging with the number one entertainment industry in the world. What do you expect from them? It's like everybody else. And then also, if you I can't stress enough, right? You got to, at a very early age, right? Because again, the world is extremely different. You have to take social media seriously. You have to take technology seriously. You have to take innovation seriously. Um, because if you do, you have an opportunity to be extraordinarily successful. If you don't, you have an opportunity to fall by the wayside, um, get lapped by the pack. And that's not anything that you want to happen to you, not anything you want to happen to your loved ones, your children, so on and so forth. So this is like a clarion call for anyone, right? Begin to take innovation more seriously than you do. I know there's a huge emphasis on doing what you've always done, which is fine, right? But also include some other stuff, right? If you are focused on, hey, we're going to try to improve communication, and you're doing so without including social media, I don't know what you're doing. you're not you're not improving communication at all. My dog is shaking. She's trying to interrupt my podcast. Anyway, but that's just how it is. And again, if you have any questions on how to do this, like I said, we're the best at this. Check out Science Policy Action Network, span-inc.org. Again, we've worked with a wide variety of partners. There's nobody in the industry or in the game that has worked with such a wide variety of partners in such a wide variety of areas. So please, check us out. If you have any questions also, please feel free to put comments and suggestions in the comment spots. We love to hear from you. Share this information with someone. If you care about, people, make sure you share it. But again, we'll be back with a guest next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. But always, I personally love coming to you direct, not as a host, but as somebody that is able just to have conversations with you about things that I think are really, really important. I'll try to include, things about things that are just not quote unquote technology. But technology is always just really, really, really exciting. But yeah, get out there, have fun with social media. I'm not one of those people that are just going to be telling you like, oh, it's a dangerous place, stay away, and so on and so forth. Nah, use social media as an incredible, incredible tool. It has its warts and so on and so forth, but every disruptive technology has that. But to get out there, use it, connect with people. There are so many fantastic people out there that are not in your circle, right? Expand your network, expand your circle. Get out there and find some interesting new ideas. Challenge your own ideas and preconceived notions. And I think social media is a great way to do that. So get out there, use social media to really, create your brand, to connect, to get your ideas out there, right? And the better you are at it, the better able you'll be able to communicate those ideas, right? But protect yourself, right? Don't share too much. Use VPN, strong password, and two-step authentication. Listen, I am your humble host, Richard Watkins. This has been the Richard Watkins Podcast. Check us out next Friday. We'll have a guest. If there's any topics or issues that you were interested in hearing more about, please let us know right here in the comment section. You can find our videos or our podcasts on Facebook. Find it on YouTube. Or if you check us out on LinkedIn, we'll include a YouTube link so you can check us out there as well. There's absolutely no excuse at all. There are opportunities to learn. Come check us out. Richard Watkins Podcast. I'm Richard Watkins. So very excited, happy, and honored to have been with you all today. Have a great remainder of your day. Take care. Goodbye.